She couldn't breathe. Derek was coming through the crowd. That look on his face, the one that said he was done asking nicely. 4 months of texts. Flowers at her workplace. Following her home. The restraining order the judge denied because Derek's father donated to his campaign. Her hands started shaking. The tray tilted. And suddenly, $12,000 of champagne was drowning the most dangerous man in Seattle. Kang Min-jun. Alleged crime lord. Legitimate businessman. The man everyone feared to touch. She just soaked him. His bodyguards reached for their guns, and she did something insane. Her hand gripped Min-jun's arm, knuckles white. "Please, he's following me." Min-jun's eyes cold assessment, tracking past her to Derek, pushing through the crowd. Beat. Silence. Then his mouth curved into a slow, predatory smile. He could have killed her. He could have had her thrown out. He could have done nothing. Instead, Min-jun's arm slid around Jazz's waist, pulling her against his side. "Gentlemen, my apologies. My girlfriend can be enthusiastic when she's happy to see me." The room's collective shock, whispers spreading like wildfire, Derek's face color draining, recognition dawning, fear replacing rage. Girlfriend? Jazz had just weaponized a crime lord against her stalker ex. Derek knew exactly who Min-jun was. Every wealthy family in Seattle did. He backed off immediately. Smart man. But here's what Derek didn't know. Min-jun doesn't do half measures. Week 1. Derek's embezzlement exposed. Week 2. His father's company hemorrhaging deals. Week 3. Federal custody. Jazz asked for protection. She got annihilation. And she was horrified, fascinated, and falling in love with a man who treated her stalker like a declaration of war. Then the FBI showed up with an ultimatum: testify against the monster who protected her or become his accomplice. But they didn't know what Jazz knew, that monsters don't ask permission. They don't offer choices. They don't teach you to stop apologizing for existing. Derek controlled her. The FBI wanted to use her. Min-jun, he saw her. This is that story. Jazz Coleman counted exits the way other people counted sheep. 3. Always 3. That's what 4 months of stalking teaches you. The Space Needle observation deck glittered with Seattle's elite corporate sponsors. Tech money. Old money pretending to care about charity. She moved through the crowd with practiced grace, coordinating staff, solving crises, reading rooms like sheet music. Sorry, excuse me, even when the drunk investor stepped on her foot. My fault when the caterer missed a cue she'd explicitly written down. Her phone buzzed. Derek. Again. I see you in that blue dress. Her whole body went rigid. She scanned the crowd, heart hammering. There, pushing past the security checkpoint she'd personally designed, Derek Chen, in his tailored Tom Ford suit, wearing that smile that used to make her feel special before she learned it meant danger. Security wouldn't touch him. Richard Chen had donated $500,000 to this charity. Money bought immunity, apparently. Jazz, Derek's voice, warm honey with arsenic underneath. You look beautiful. Can we talk? I'm working. Professional mask locked in place. Please leave. Stop making a scene. His hand on her elbow, gripped too tight. People are staring because you're acting crazy. She was a black woman at a white elite event. Causing drama meant career suicide, and Derek knew it. He was backing her toward the railing, blocking her exits, and her hands started shaking. The champagne tray passed within reach. Across the deck, she spotted him, Kang Min-jun. She'd seen him in society pages, heard the whispered warnings. Dangerous, powerful, untouchable. Derek's fingers dug into her arm. Let me take you home. Jazz grabbed the tray. 12 glasses of Dom Perignon. $12,000 of liquid courage. She tracked Min-jun's position, calculated the angle, and moved. The champagne cascaded in slow-motion golden liquid arcing through Seattle's glittering skyline, drenching Min-jun's $15,000 suit. Silence crashed across the observation deck. His bodyguard's hands moved toward weapons. Jazz grabbed Min-jun's arm. anchoring herself to him like he was the last solid thing in the world. 4 words tumbled out, desperate and broken. "Please, he's following me." Min-jun's eyes locked on hers for one heartbeat, then tracked past her to Derek. His mouth curved into something that wasn't quite a smile, more like a wolf recognizing prey. His arms slid around her waist, possessive and claiming, pulling her tight against his side. When he spoke, his voice carried across the entire deck. "Gentlemen, my apologies. My girlfriend can be enthusiastic when she's happy to see me." "Girlfriend?" The room erupted in whispers. Phones appeared. Photos snapped. Derek's face drained of color as recognition hit him like ice water. Everyone in Seattle knew Kang Min-jun. Everyone feared him. Derek backed away, hands raised, that practiced charm cracking into something feral. But he was already retreating, disappearing into the crowd like smoke. Jazz couldn't stop shaking. Min-jun's hand was warm on her hip, steady, and she realized she'd stopped counting exits because she was standing next to the most dangerous one. "Are you injured?" His first question. Concern before anger. She shook her head, words failing. "Good." Min-jun produced a business card from his soaked jacket, pressed it into her palm. "Call me tomorrow. We'll discuss terms of our John arrangement." He left her there, dripping champagne and possibility, while the entire Seattle elite watched her world change. Jazz went home with 47 missed calls from Derek and a crime lord's number burning in her pocket. If you want to see what Min-jun's arrangement really means, and trust me, it's not what Jazz expected, you need to stay until the end. And please hit the subscribe button, because what happens in week 1 will make you question everything you thought you knew about protection versus possession. At 6 a.m., she made the call that would change her life. What Min-jun offered shocked her. What he'd already done to Derek terrified her. And what she was about to discover about herself would transform everything. Jazz couldn't sleep. Her laptop screen glowed in the darkness, search results scrolling endlessly. Kang Min-jun, alleged organized crime. Legitimate businessman denies accusations, never convicted, frequently investigated. His face appeared in dozens of photos, charity galas, business meetings, always commanding the room with that same calculating control she'd witnessed at the Space Needle. Her phone lit up with another voicemail from Derek. She pressed play, hating herself for it. "You think he'll protect you? He'll eat you alive, Jazz. You embarrassed me with a gangster. This is a new low. Even for you." But Derek's voice cracked with something she'd never heard before. Fear. He recognized Min-jun. That's why he'd retreated so fast, tail between his legs like a beaten dog. At 6 a.m., she made the call. Min-jun answered on the first ring, voice alert, like he'd been waiting. "Miss Coleman, I hoped you'd call. Meet me at Harbor Coffee, 8 a.m. Come alone." Click. Jazz stared at her phone. What am I doing? The address he texted wasn't a coffee shop. It was a high-rise overlooking Elliott Bay, all glass and steel and money. Min-jun waited in his office, showered and pressed, not a trace of champagne anywhere. He offered her coffee exactly how she took it, which was unsettling because she'd never told him. "You used me as a shield last night. I'm curious why." Jazz told him everything. The 2-year relationship that felt like drowning. Finding out about Derek's serial cheating through texts on his phone while he slept. Breaking the engagement 4 months ago. The gifts that became surveillance. The flowers at work that felt like threats. The restraining order the judge denied because insufficient evidence, the same judge who played golf with Derek's father every Sunday. Min-jun listened without interrupting. Derek never listened. Derek talked over her, corrected her, told her what she times really times meant. "What do you want from him?" Min-jun asked. "I want him to leave me alone. Permanently. Without violence." Min-jun's eyebrow lifted. An interesting constraint. Most people in your position want revenge. I'm not most people. No. His gaze held hers. You're not. He laid out the arrangement like a business deal. 6 months. Public appearances. He'd make Derek disappear legally. She'd provide respectability for his legitimate business transition. Clean, Transactional, mutual benefit. Jazz excused herself to the bathroom, stared at her reflection in the mirror. The restraining order failed. Police laughed her off. Derek threatened her career, her safety, her sanity. She was out of legal options, and Min-jun was offering an illegal one. 6 months, she said when she returned. Strictly business. And Derek doesn't get hurt, just stopped. Agreed. I'll have my lawyer draw up a contract. An actual contract? She almost laughed. I'm a legitimate businessman, Miss Coleman. His smile was knowing. I keep records. That evening, they had dinner at a waterfront restaurant. Paparazzi already stationed outside Min-jun's doing, obviously. Strategic visibility. She apologized for sitting. Sorry, am I in your way? Stop. His voice cut sharp. Don't apologize when you sit. Don't apologize for ordering what you want. Don't apologize for existing in space you're entitled to. It's just polite. It's self-erasure. My sister used to apologize for breathing. Silence stretched between them. Used to, Jazz whispered. She took her own life 7 years ago. Her suicide note said, I'm sorry for being a burden. Min-jun's jaw tightened. So when I hear you apologize for existing, I hear her. And I want to eliminate whatever made you think you needed to. Jazz's hand covered her mouth. She'd written that exact phrase in therapy journals. Asterisk. Sorry for being a burden. Outside, cameras flashed. Min-jun stood, helped her with her coat, the perfect gentleman for the perfect photo. By tomorrow morning, Derek will see these, he said. He'll understand. Understand what? That you're not alone anymore. And if you think this arrangement was going to stay strictly business, you clearly don't know what happens when protection turns into obsession. But stick around, because what Min-jun does in the next 48 hours will make you question whether Jazz made a deal or signed her soul away. The photos went viral overnight. Mystery woman. Seattle's most eligible bachelor. Derek saw them. So did his father. What they didn't know? Min-jun had already made 3 phone calls, sent 2 encrypted files, and scheduled one very strategic meeting with the SEC. Week 1 was about to begin, and Jazz was about to learn that Min-jun didn't do anything halfway, including destruction. Jazz's phone woke her at dawn with a news alert she'd remember for the rest of her life. Chen Development. CFO Derek Chen, under SEC investigation, asterisk. The Wall Street Journal article laid it out in brutal detail. Embezzlement, fraudulent accounts, $3.2 million in misappropriated funds. Derek had been stealing from his own father's company for 2 years, using stolen money to fund the lavish lifestyle he'd flaunted, the gifts he'd given her, the engagement ring still sitting in her jewelry box, all bought with crimes she'd known nothing about. Her phone exploded. Derek's number, the one she'd blocked, somehow getting through. This is you. You did this. That fucking Korean gangster is destroying me. I don't know what you're talking about. The SEC investigation started yesterday, 1 day after your little date photos. You think that's coincidence? The call ended before she could respond. Her hands shook as she dialed Min-jun. 20 minutes later, she stormed past his assistants, past security that melted away at her approach, and found him at his desk, reading the same article, Americano in hand, utterly calm. I asked you to make him leave me alone, not destroy his entire career. Min-jun set down his coffee with deliberate care. I didn't fabricate evidence. The SEC has been building this case for 18 months. I simply ensured his actual crimes received proper attention. Other women? The folder he slid across the desk contained 5 names, 5 stories eerily similar to hers. Love bombing, control, threats. One had even filed a police report dismissed by the same system that denied Jazz her restraining order. You're not his first victim, Min-jun said quietly. Just his most recent. She couldn't look away from the folder, couldn't breathe past the realization that she'd been a pattern, not special. Just another woman Derek had decided to collect and destroy. Men like Derek don't stop because you ask nicely, Min-jun continued. They stop when consequences become unavoidable. By week 2, Richard Chen's empire was hemorrhaging. Major contracts pulled, permits delayed, financing withdrawn. At a gala Jazz attended on Min-jun's arm, she overheard the whispers. Someone powerful wants Chen development gone. Asterisk. Over Korean barbecue, Min-jun cooking for her, teaching her the tradition they fought about it. Where's the line? She demanded. His father didn't stalk me. His father enabled Derek, paid off previous victims, used his connections to deny your restraining order. Richard Chen is complicit. That's revenge, not protection. In my experience, they're the same thing. You're impossible. You're naive. The kiss happened so fast, neither could claim who moved first. Desperate, angry, passionate, they pulled apart, shocked into silence. That was, Min-jun started. A mistake, agreed. But neither believed it. At her door later, he said, for what it's worth, I'd do it again. The protection and the kiss. He was gone before she could respond. Week 3 brought Derek's arrest. Federal charges. Possible 10-year sentence. Jazz watched the footage alone, Derek in handcuffs, his face twisted with rage and betrayal. Relief and guilt warred inside her until her doorbell rang. Min-jun, holding takeout, reading her face. You're feeling guilty. Don't. Korean comfort food spread across her table, his voice steady. Derek built a house of cards with stolen money and lies. I simply knocked. The collapse was inevitable. You're making him a martyr in his own mind. Now I'm the villain of his story. No. Now you're the woman who got away. There's power in that. She realized halfway through the meal. She hadn't apologized once all night. Min-jun noticed. See? You're learning. But 300 miles away, FBI agent Maria Santos was staring at surveillance photos of Jazz and Min-jun, connecting dots that would change everything. She picked up her phone, made a call that would shatter Jazz's fragile sense of safety. By morning, Jazz would learn that protection has a price, and sometimes the FBI comes to collect. Jazz's hands trembled as she slid into her car, the parking garage suddenly feeling like a cage. The black sedan with government plates sat 3 spaces away, engine idling, a reminder that someone was always watching. Agent Maria Santos, FBI. The badge had gleamed under the fluorescent lights, official and absolute. We need to talk about Kang Min-jun. Not a request. Never a request when federal agents came calling. Now Jazz sat alone in a coffee shop. Santos had chosen public, neutral, the kind of place where screaming wouldn't help. Evidence folders spread across the table like accusations. Financial records with Min-jun's name circled in red. Surveillance photos catching moments Jazz thought were private dinner at the waterfront. Leaving his office, his hand at the small of her back. Court documents thick with words like racketeering and conspiracy and organized crime. He's transitioning to legitimate business because we're closing in, Santos said, her voice carrying the weight of 15 years chasing men like Min-jun. He needs respectability. You're providing it. She leaned forward, and Jazz saw genuine concern beneath the federal agent mask. You're a prop, Miss Coleman. A beautiful, successful black woman who makes him look civilized. The words stung because they echoed Jazz's own midnight fears. You don't know anything about our relationship. I know Derek Chen's arrest happened 72 hours after you went public with Min-jun. That's not coincidence. That's retaliation. Santos pulled out another photo. Min-jun with men Jazz didn't recognize, faces hard with violence. I've seen this pattern before. Woman gets involved, thinks she's different, thinks she can change him. Then she becomes collateral damage. Her voice softened. I have a daughter your age. I don't want to see you in a body bag or a courtroom defending him. The cooperation agreement appeared next, already drafted, just waiting for Jazz's signature. Testify to what you've witnessed. Full immunity. Witness protection if needed. Walk away clean. And Derek? Jazz heard herself ask. Who protected me from him? Santos's pause said everything. We can't prosecute everyone. Just the ones who protected me when the law wouldn't. Jazz took the folder but left the agreement unsigned. At home, she Googled until her eyes burned. Found articles about Min-jun's sister Soo-jin, beloved daughter, 23, died tragically. Suicide. The word felt too small for what it meant. Old interviews showed Min-jun's face carved from stone. Justice delayed is not justice denied. It's justice I'll deliver personally. She'd thought Derek was her war. But Min-jun had been fighting longer, harder, with weapons Jazz was only beginning to understand. Her phone buzzed. Dinner tomorrow? There's something I need to tell you. Jazz stared at the message, then at the FBI folder, then at her reflection in the dark window. The woman looking back wasn't the one who'd spilled champagne 3 weeks ago. That woman apologized for breathing. This one was learning to take up space, even if that space was between a crime lord and the law. She typed back, "Your place. I have questions." His response came instantly. "I have answers." Not all of them good. Outside, a car sat parked across the street, different from Santos's sedan, but watching just the same. Jazz counted the exits 3, always 3, and realized she'd stopped counting weeks ago when Min-jun was nearby. If you're not subscribed yet, you're missing the moment when Jazz discovers exactly what Min-jun's been hiding, and it's not what the FBI thinks. Hit that subscribe button, because what happens next will make you question everything you thought you knew about protection. Jazz didn't sleep. By morning, she'd made a decision that would change everything. But she didn't know that across the city, Derek's father Richard Chen was making a phone call that would turn protection into war. And Jazz? She was about to become the prize everyone wanted to claim. Jazz stared at the FBI folder spread across her kitchen counter like autopsy photos of her own judgment. Evidence of Min-jun's alleged crimes. Shell companies. Witness intimidation. Court documents she couldn't unsee. She Googled deeper, falling down rabbit holes she'd avoided before. Soo-jin's obituary appeared first. Beloved daughter, 23, died tragically, followed by speculation pieces questioning whether suicide was the real story. Then Min-jun's old interview, quote, jumped out at her. Justice delayed is not justice denied, it's justice I'll deliver personally. The rival family's business empire had collapsed within months of Soo-jin's death. Systematic, thorough, familiar. Her phone buzzed. Dinner tomorrow? There's something we need to discuss. Asterisk. She typed 3 different responses, deleted them all, and finally sent, asterisk, your place, 7 p.m., asterisk. The next evening, she found him in his penthouse kitchen, sleeves rolled up, cooking Korean stew that smelled like comfort and danger mixed together. He didn't look up when she entered. The FBI approached you. Not a question. 3 days ago. Jazz leaned against the counter, watching his hands move with practiced precision. Agent Santos. She had photos of us. Evidence. A cooperation agreement already drafted. Min-jun's knife stilled for just a heartbeat. What did you tell her? That I'd think about it. She pulled the folder from her bag, dropped it between them. So I thought about it. I researched you. Really researched you this time. Your sister. The family that destroyed itself after she died. The pattern. He finally looked at her, eyes unreadable. And I need you to tell me the truth. All of it. Not the sanitized version you gave me at dinner, not the legal pressure and economic consequences speech. The real truth about who you are and what you've done. The silence stretched like a wire pulled too tight. Then Min-jun set down the knife, turned off the stove, and faced her fully. Yes, I've hurt people, ruined lives, used violence when I deemed it necessary. His voice was steady, unflinching. The family connected to Soo-jin's stalker, I dismantled them. Their businesses, their reputation, their freedom. Some deserved it. Some were just collateral damage. I didn't care about the difference then. Jazz's breath caught, but she didn't look away. I run an organization that operates outside the law. Money laundering, intimidation, strategic violence. I'm transitioning to legitimate business because I'm tired of looking over my shoulder, not because I've found morality. He stepped closer. But I have lines. No drugs, no trafficking, no civilian casualties. And I keep my promises absolutely. Why are you telling me this? Her voice barely a whisper. Because you deserve the choice Derek never gave you. The FBI never gave you. Min-jun's hand covered hers on the counter. You can walk away right now. I'll give you money, protection, clean break. Or you can stay, knowing exactly who I am. But you don't get to stay in ignorant bliss. That's not respect, that's another cage. Jazz looked down at their hands. His warm, hers trembling. If I stay, then you stay with eyes open, knowing what I've done, what I might still do. His thumb traced her knuckles. You were never mine to keep, Jazz. The question is whether you choose to stay anyway. She pulled her hand back, turned away, brain screaming contradictions. Derek had lied. The FBI wanted to use her. Min-jun was offering radical honesty that terrified her more than any deception. I need time. Take it. He returned to cooking like her world wasn't imploding. But understand, Derek's father just made some calls. Things are about to escalate. If you're going to leave, leave now. Because in 48 hours, staying becomes infinitely more dangerous. Jazz walked to the door, stopped with her hand on the handle. What kind of calls? Min-jun's smile was all predator. The kind that make men like me prove what we're willing to destroy for what we love. She left without another word. But his folder stayed on her counter next to the FBI's. 2 versions of truth. Neither one safe. Her phone buzzed at 2 a.m. Unknown number. A photo loaded slowly. Her yoga studio parking lot. Her car circled in red. Time stamp from that morning. The text that followed made her blood ice. He thinks he can protect you. Let's test that theory. The safe house wasn't what Jazz expected. No dingy warehouse or abandoned building. Min-jun had brought her to a sleek penthouse in Belltown. All floor-to-ceiling windows, and tactical precision disguised as luxury. But behind the mahogany panels, she glimpsed what this place really was. A war room. Park stood guard at the entrance, eyeing her with barely concealed suspicion. She'd seen the shootout, watched Min-jun's world explode into violence in that parking lot. 2 hours ago, she'd been leaving yoga class. Now, she was sitting in a crime lord's command center, while he coordinated a response that would probably end with someone dead. Min-jun appeared in the doorway, still wearing the dress shirt he'd thrown on before racing to save her. There was blood on his sleeve, not his own. He looked at her like she might shatter. I'm sorry. His voice, usually so controlled, cracked at the edges. I painted a target on your back. Jazz stared at him. In 4 months, Derek had never apologized for anything. Not the stalking, not the threats, not backing her into corners at parties. But Min-jun, the man everyone called ruthless, the one who just orchestrated a coordinated strike against her attackers, was apologizing for protecting her. You saved my life, she said quietly. I endangered it first. He sat across from her, maintaining distance, like he was afraid to touch her. Richard Chen used his triad connections. They grabbed you to send me a message. What message? That I'm vulnerable now. That loving someone makes me weak. His eyes met hers. They're not entirely wrong. Loving. The word hung between them like smoke. Park knocked, entering without waiting for permission. The one who grabbed her is downstairs, wants to talk. Min-jun's jaw tightened. Tell him to wait. Min-jun. Jazz stood, her voice steadier than she felt. I want to see him. Both men stared at her. The man who tried to kidnap you? Min-jun's tone was careful, like he was talking someone off a ledge. I want to see what you do. All of it. No more protection from reality. She crossed her arms, channeling every ounce of event coordinator authority she possessed. If I'm in this, I'm times in times this. Show me your world. Min-jun studied her for a long moment. Then he nodded. The interrogation room was behind a steel door she'd mistaken for a closet. One-way glass. Concrete walls. The man zip-tied to the chair was maybe 30, bleeding from his temple, shaking. Not a hardened criminal, a hired gun who'd made a terrible choice. Jazz watched through the glass as Min-jun entered the room. His voice was too quiet to hear, but she saw the man's face drain of color, saw him talking fast, desperate, spilling everything, saw Min-jun listen with terrifying patience. When Min-jun returned, he stood beside her at the glass. "He'll tell me who hired him, where the orders came from, how much they know about you, and then you choose." Min-jun turned to face her fully. "What happens to him is your decision, Jazz, not mine. You're the one he hurt." She looked at the man through the glass, terrified. Broken. Probably with a family somewhere. Derek would have killed him without thinking. The FBI would have offered him a deal he'd never honor. "Break his hands," she said quietly, "so he can't hold a gun again. Then put him on a plane somewhere far from Seattle, somewhere he'll never want to come back from." Min-jun's expression didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes. Respect, maybe, or recognition. "Mercy with teeth," he murmured. "You're learning." She was learning. Learning that protection had a price. Learning that violence could be measured, controlled, strategic. Learning that she could watch a man's punishment without looking away and still be herself. The realization terrified her more than the kidnapping attempt. That night, Min-jun called a war council meeting, and for the first time, he invited Jazz to sit at the table. Park's objection was immediate. "This is organizational business, Hyungnim. She's essential," Min-jun interrupted. "Sit down, Taesung." 5 men around the table, all watching her with varying degrees of skepticism. Jazz knew this moment mattered not just for her safety, but for whatever this thing with Min-jun was becoming. "Richard Chen won't stop," she said before anyone else could speak. "He's escalating because you humiliated him. His son's in federal custody. His business is collapsing, and everyone knows why. This isn't about Derek anymore. It's about Richard's ego." Park leaned back. "And you're an event coordinator. What do you know about ego wars?" "I know that powerful men care more about perception than reality. I've planned charity galas for them for 5 years." She met his stare without flinching. "Richard thinks eliminating me makes Min-jun look weak, but killing me would make Min-jun look uncontrollable. Neither outcome benefits him." She turned to Min-jun. "He wants you to overreact, to start a war that costs you allies, money, legitimacy, everything you've been building toward." Silence around the table. "So what do you propose?" Min-jun's voice was neutral, but his eyes were sharp. "Public humiliation, not violence." Jazz pulled out her phone, showing them Derek's mugshot that had gone viral. Derek's apology press conference. Force Richard to make his son apologize to every woman he's harassed publicly, with media present. Derek names me, names the others, admits everything. Richard has to stand there and watch his legacy crumble on camera. "That won't stop him from retaliating," Park argued. "No, but it stops him from being the victim, makes him the father of a predator instead of a man defending his family." Jazz looked around the table. "You want to send a message to Seattle's elite? Show them that money can't protect their sons from consequences. That women like me aren't targets anymore. We're testimony." Park stared at her for 3 long seconds. Then he laughed, sharp, surprised. "You've got spine. I'll give you that." Over dinner that night, Korean fried chicken and soju that Park grudgingly shared, Jazz felt something shift. These men who'd initially seen her as Min-jun's weakness were starting to see her as something else. Not one of them, maybe. But not prey, either. Kim asked about her work. Park told her stories about Min-jun in broken English mixed with Korean. Someone taught her how to properly pour soju. By midnight, she was laughing at jokes she barely understood, and Min-jun was watching her with an expression she couldn't name. Later, alone in the guest room he'd given her, Jazz stared at her reflection. The woman looking back at her had steady hands. No apologizing. No making herself smaller. She'd proposed using humiliation as a weapon. She'd ordered a man's hands broken without flinching. She'd sat in a room full of criminals and been respected. Who was she becoming? Her phone buzzed. Min-jun's text. "You were brilliant tonight. Sleep well." She typed back, "I'm not sure brilliant is the right word." His response came immediately. "You're discovering your teeth. That's not corruption, Jazz. That's evolution." She wanted to believe him. God. She wanted to believe that becoming harder meant becoming stronger, not lost. That protection and violence could coexist with the woman she used to be. But lying in the dark of Min-jun's safe house, listening to guards patrol outside, Jazz wondered if there was a version of this story where she didn't lose herself completely, where taking up space didn't mean becoming someone unrecognizable. Her phone lit up again. Not Min-jun this time. An unknown number. 3 words that made her blood freeze. He knows everything. Then a photo. Agent Santos sitting across from Richard Chen in what looked like a private meeting. Both smiling. Jazz's heart hammered. The FBI and the triads, working together, both wanting Min-jun destroyed, and she was caught directly in the middle. Agent Santos spread the evidence across the coffee shop table like a poker player, revealing a winning hand. Financial records, wiretaps, surveillance photos of Min-jun with men whose faces Jazz recognized from news reports about organized crime. The cooperation agreement sat on top, already drafted, just waiting for her signature. Racketeering, money laundering, conspiracy. Santos's voice was steady, almost gentle. "He's a criminal, Miss Coleman. No matter how he treats you, that's what he is." Jazz stared at the photos. Min-jun at shipping docks. Min-jun in rooms with known gang members. Min-jun's financial web laid bare shell companies, offshore accounts, the infrastructure of an empire built on something darker than boardroom deals. Derek was a criminal too. The words came out quieter than she intended. Where was the FBI then? Santos leaned back, and for a moment, something like sympathy crossed her face. "We can't prosecute everyone. Just the ones who protected me when the law wouldn't." Jazz pushed the agreement back across the table unsigned. "I need to think about it." "Don't think too long. The window closes fast." Jazz left the coffee shop with the folder burning against her ribs and drove straight to Min-jun's office. She found him at his desk, adjusting his cufflinks that tell she'd learned meant he was thinking, calculating. "The FBI came to see me today." She dropped the folder on his desk. "Agent Santos." She had quite a presentation prepared. Min-jun opened the folder, scanned the contents without expression. And I want the truth. All of it. No corporate euphemisms. No lawyer speak. What did you do? What are you still doing? He closed the folder slowly. "What do you want to hear?" "The truth," she repeated. "You owe me that much." Min-jun stood, walked to the window overlooking Elliott Bay. The setting sun turned the water gold, and for a long moment he just looked out at his city, the one he'd built his empire in, the one that feared and respected him in equal measure. "I've hurt people." His voice was steady, matter-of-fact. "Broken bones, destroyed businesses, ruined lives. Never civilians, never without reason. But yes, I've done violence." Jazz's hands were steady as she poured herself whiskey from his bar. "Define reason." "Betrayal, threat, disrespect that couldn't go unanswered." He turned to face her. "I don't deal drugs. I don't traffic people. I don't hurt women or children. Those are my lines. Everything else," he shrugged, "negotiable." "Derek crossed your lines. Derek was a predator who hurt you and 5 other women. Yes, I made him pay, and I'd do it again." His eyes met hers, unflinching. "The question isn't what I am, Jazz. You've known what I am since the moment you grabbed my arm. The question is what you're going to do about it." The cooperation agreement sat between them like a grenade. "I could testify. She said it just to hear how it sounded. Walk away clean. Witness protection. New life somewhere Derek and his father can't find me. You could. Min-jun moved closer, but didn't touch her. I'd let you go. Right now. I'll have my lawyer set you up financially. You'll never want for anything. You'll be safe. Just like that? You were never mine to keep, Jazz. You're choosing to be here. The moment that changes, you walk. That was always the deal. She looked at him, really looked. At the man who dismantled her stalker like he was declaring war, who cooked her Korean food and taught her to stop apologizing, who'd given her a choice when Derek never had, who was offering her freedom even as the FBI tightened its noose around both their necks. You'd really let me go? I'd hate it. It would destroy me. But yes. His hand finally moved to her face, thumb brushing her cheek. Protection without choice is just another cage. And I won't cage you. Jazz closed her eyes, feeling the weight of the decision pressing down on her chest. The law that had failed her, the criminal who'd saved her, the life she'd known, the life she was building beside someone dangerous. When she opened her eyes, she knew what she had to do. Santos is coming back in 3 days. She wants an answer. Jazz picked up the folder, looked at the cooperation agreement one last time. I need to know something first. If I choose, you really choose you, knowing everything. What happens next? Min-jun's smile was slow, dangerous, full of promise. Then we stop pretending this is temporary, and we prepare for war. Outside, across the city, Richard Chen was making phone calls to people who owed him favors. Derek was spiraling in his jail cell, planning revenge. And Agent Santos was building her case, convinced she could save Jazz from herself. None of them knew Jazz had already made her choice, but they were about to find out exactly what happened when you backed a woman who'd finally learned to stop apologizing into a corner. The federal agents came at dawn like they always do, when the world is still soft and sleeping. Jazz was at Min-jun's office reviewing security protocols when the battering ram hit the front entrance. Glass shattered. Boots thundered. Voices shouting, FBI! Search warrant! Agent Santos led the charge, badge high, eyes landing on Jazz with something like pity. Kang Min-jun, you're under arrest for racketeering, money laundering, and conspiracy to commit wire fraud. The handcuffs clicked around Min-jun's wrists with surgical precision. He didn't fight, didn't flinch, just looked at Jazz across the chaos and said quietly, Call Attorney Huang. Don't say anything. They separated them. Different rooms, different interrogators. But Jazz only got Santos, sitting across a metal table with that cooperation agreement spread between them like a loaded gun. This is your last chance, Miss Coleman. Santos's voice carried genuine concern beneath the federal authority. Testify about what you've witnessed, the financial transactions, the meetings, the phone calls. Walk away clean with full immunity. We'll put you in witness protection if needed. New city, new name, new life. Jazz stared at the papers. Freedom typed in neat legal paragraphs. Or you go down with him, Santos continued. Accessory charges, conspiracy. You could be looking at 20 years. Is he worth that? The question hung in the recycled air. Jazz thought about Derek's hands on her arm. The restraining order denied because judges play golf with donors. The 4 months of terror the law called insufficient evidence. She thought about Min-jun teaching her to stop apologizing for existing, cooking her kalbi when the world felt too heavy, asking instead of demanding. Derek Chen stalked me for 4 months, Jazz said slowly, each word deliberate. Threatened my career, followed me home, made me count exits everywhere I went. I filed for a restraining order. Your system denied it because his father had connections. Santos opened her mouth, but Jazz wasn't finished. Derek committed actual crimes, embezzlement, harassment, terrorizing multiple women. Where was the FBI then? She leaned forward. You can't prosecute everyone, Agent Santos. Just the ones who protect women like me when your law won't. Jazz picked up the cooperation agreement, felt its weight. All those promises of safety, legitimacy, a clean slate. She reached into her pocket, found her lighter, the one she used for stress relief cigarettes. She'd quit smoking months ago but still carried, and set the corner of the agreement on fire. The paper curled and blackened as Santos watched, too stunned to move. "I'm not testifying." Santos's face hardened. "You're making a mistake." "Maybe," Jazz said, standing. "But it's my mistake to make." They processed her out 3 hours later. No charges filed. Not yet. But Santos's final words followed her into the Seattle rain. "When you're ready to save yourself, call me. Before it's too late." Min-jun was already out, posting bail with money so clean it squeaked. He found Jazz outside the federal building, soaked through, still holding her lighter. "You burned it," he said. "Not a question." "I burned it." Something passed between them, then understanding deeper than words, more binding than any contract. But freedom never comes without a price. Across town, Derek Chen made bail too, violating his agreement the second his father's money bought his temporary release. He had a gun, he had rage, and he had Jazz's address. At 2 a.m., he walked into Min-jun's building with nothing left to lose. 6 months after Derek's arrest, Jazz stood in the lobby of Coleman Kang Security Consulting, watching sunlight catch the chrome letters on the wall. Their company, built from ashes and champagne. "Stop fidgeting," Min-jun murmured beside her, adjusting his tie. "You've coordinated events for 500 people. This is 75. Those people weren't judging whether I'm a crime lord's trophy or an actual businesswoman." Jazz smoothed her dress, emerald green, her power color. No more apologizing through wardrobe choices. The ribbon cutting was perfect. Mayor praising their community investment. Business leaders applauding their innovative approach to corporate security. Photographers capturing Jazz commanding the room like she'd been born to it. Because she had been. She'd just spent 28 years apologizing for it. Coleman Kang Security exists because safety shouldn't require sacrifice. Jazz told the crowd, meeting every eye. Everyone deserves to live without fear, to take up space without apology, to exist loudly. The standing ovation felt like vindication. Later, in Min-jun's office their Times office, Agent Santos appeared without warning. No warrant this time, just resignation in her eyes. "Case dismissed," Santos said flatly. "Insufficient evidence. Witnesses developed amnesia. Procedural issues." She dropped a file on the desk. "You won." "We survived," Jazz corrected. "There's a difference." Santos studied her. "You really believe he's changed?" "I believe I changed him. The way he changed me." Jazz leaned back. "Partnership does that. It's terrifying. It's transformative. And it's none of your business." Santos left her card anyway, if that ever changes. Jazz kept it. Not betrayal wisdom, trust without naivety. That evening, Min-jun found her on their balcony, watching Seattle's lights blur through sudden tears. "Derek's lawyer sent an email," she said. "He's being released next month, relocating to Singapore permanently." Min-jun's silence was a question. He apologized, said he hoped I was happy. Jazz laughed wetly. "Is it wrong that I don't hate him anymore?" "It's growth." Min-jun's hand found hers. "Hate is heavy. You put it down." "I put down a lot of things." She turned to face him. The apologizing, the shrinking, the belief that my existence was an imposition, and picked up new things. His smile was soft. Unapologetic leadership. Partnership. Me. "The heaviest thing I've ever carried," Jazz teased. Then Min-jun was kneeling, pulling out a ring she'd never seen but somehow recognized because she'd described it once, half joking, and he'd listened like he always did. "Jasmine Coleman, you transformed everything, my business, my life, my understanding of power." His voice caught. "Real power isn't forcing compliance. It's earning trust. Will you marry me?" "Not as my protection." as my equal partner in everything. Jazz stared at the ring custom design, her vision made real, and felt something crack open in her chest. Not fear, not doubt. Terror. Pure, exhilarating terror at how much she wanted this. But before she could answer, her phone exploded with alerts. Min-jun's too. Breaking news. Richard Chen found dead in Hong Kong. Suspected suicide. And Derek's lawyer, frantically calling, *, your client violated release terms. He's missing. Armed. Last known location, Seattle, *. Min-jun's face went cold as Jazz's world tilted. Derek was back. Derek was supposed to be in Singapore. Instead, he was in Seattle, armed, hunting. His father was dead, suicide, or murder, no one knew. And Derek blamed one person for everything he'd lost. Jazz. The standoff that followed, it revealed truths about Derek's family that even Min-jun's intelligence network missed. Secrets that connected to organized crime families across 3 continents. And a final choice Jazz never saw coming, one that would define who she'd become. But here's what you need to know. This story, it's based on real patterns. Wealthy men who stalk. Systems that fail women. The impossible choices when protection comes with a price. And the transformation that happens when someone finally sees you as worthy of risk. If you want to know how Jazz survived Derek's final attack, what really happened to Richard Chen, why the FBI came back with an offer that shattered everything, and how a black woman and a Korean crime lord built an empire that changed Seattle forever. Subscribe now and comment with where you're watching from. Type Jazz for more stories and continuation.